Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak visited Sydney this week to talk about broadband. Now, he says the government's planned 12 megabits per second is adequate, but not ultimate. Now, Sky News business reporter Lisa Creffield asked the Woz how broadband has transformed his own life.
I was one of the early ones to jump into broadband, way ahead of the rest of the world. And now, actually, I've stuck with some speeds that are slower than others. I would say the ability to share with other people either songs I've bought, but share them in a legal way, or especially ordering them songs, downloading music, downloading videos for my iPods. I mean, I watched 2 movies on my little iPod Touch on the way over here on the plane.
We're still some distance away from a 100% wired broadband world. Shouldn't we be there already?
I think it's going to be an awful long time when you talk about, use words like the world. As far as the civilized world, even the United States, it's only 50% of the homes are broadband, and the people who don't have it really don't want it, they don't need it. They use their internet every day for a certain amount of email, they aren't trading huge photographs, There's a lot of people that don't need that world. There's such a range of how much broadband people need. I have other friends that absolutely need a gigabit if they could get it for their own house, and some people that just need old modem speeds. So it's hard to hit what is the center line. Everybody's looking for one number, and one number is really not the right answer. But you've got to start out somewhere. Broadband's a big step, and when you're going to bring it to virtually everyone in a country, it's, you've got to provide it at some reasonable cost and bandwidth, and then plan it later that there are easy ways to upgrade it to higher bandwidth. A lot of people in the United States bought DSL at maybe 1 megabits down and and a fraction of a megabit up. And then over time, it was enhanced and the speed went up and up and up without additional charges.
Convergence also seems to be some way away. It's held back here in Australia by high broadband prices and low download limits, and also resistance from studios and content owners. Is it inevitable that they will have to give way?
I'd say yes. Those who make the rules are the problem. And that in the United States, we have restrictions sometimes when they spot your that you didn't even know. It's in the fine print in the contracts. You've downloaded too much or you've uploaded too much data this month. So all of a sudden you're throttled and cut down. At least we do have a lot of good cable systems that have the triple play, where one wire, basically one access to the internet. They have huge networks set up where they distribute not only your television, but also your music, also your internet and your voice calls. And I understand that's not necessarily the case here. Australia's faltering a little bit behind. And I fail to understand that because most of Europe, when I read lists of countries, most of Europe have more broadband at higher speeds than we do have in the States. And I expect Australia to usually mimic Europe more than the States. So we're with you.
How converged are you yourself? Are you finding you're downloading more content rather than watching conventional TV?
I actually stopped watching TV about 20 years ago, but then I would watch movies. And now I am buying some movies for my iPods and watching them that way, but generally I'm still watching them. I'm watching them off DVDs. So I'm just not a TV fanatic. It doesn't matter to me. I use my Apple TV more to explore and experiment with and see what is the quality of the high defs they're selling and how does it compare to DVDs. I'm more of just treating it like a gadget now.
You've said that you're surprised that it's taken someone so long to bring out a device like the iPhone. You said that Sony could have done it but didn't find the right formula. Why do you think it's taken so long?
I don't know. I think it takes the technology that's in the iPhone has been around for a long time. The features that are in the iPhone have actually been in other phones in other ways for a long time. And it's that whole aspect of making some product that is so excellent that it looks to the user beautiful. It has a type of a beauty in how it was implemented. And, Apple just took the steps with the gesture-based stuff, means I as a human being can take an action that I feel normal with rather than having to punch little buttons that have a meaning. That's indirection. That's something you have to memorize in your head. And it's that beautiful feeling that tells me I'm more of a human. So the iPhone hit the formula better than the ones before. The functions that are in the iPhone will probably start popping up on things, even things like weather and stock reports will be starting to be built into other appliances around the house. I don't think it'll stop just with phones.
As an inventor yourself, what areas of innovation are you most excited about? Where are the gaps for really groundbreaking new products and technologies?
Yes, I'm a little bit past being an active designer. I build a project once now and then with very simple little microprocessors, sort of on the scale I was familiar with back when. But I'm interested in display technologies in particular, the sort that you're going to wear someday, and you'll be able to push a button, and that'll be the color of your clothes for today. And I envision, like, could you wrap a display around in the shape of a globe, and then have Google Earth being displayed as a real globe, and you can still zoom in and check out all the cams that are online and all that stuff. A real easy, because your head relates to a 3D globe much better than positioned on a 2D screen. I have troubles with that sometimes. I like, let's see, in the future, I'm thinking processor speed goes up and up and up, and it's basically driven by Moore's law, and we're getting to some very critical endpoints where we can't get enough, we can get more speed out of the chips, but we can't get the heat away. And that goes away with photonics, which is a way of using light switches instead of electron switches on silicon. And I think that'll be the way to get the processors up another order of magnitude or two in speed. And why do we need that? Everything seems to be fast enough. Well, it turns out that we still haven't really made great strides in the way of artificial intelligence. A computer that can look at you, judge your facial expressions, think of you, and treat you like a real human would.
You've lived through the entire computer revolution. You've been part of making that revolution happen. Do you ever feel envious of today's young children, the Generation Z digital natives, that will grow up in a world never knowing what it's like to live without broadband internet?
When I was teaching 11-year-olds some time ago, computers were still kind of a fresh thing in the world and in their lives. I sat there and watched. They get to grow up with computers, which I would have loved to have been. I'd like to be 10 years old now, and I could grow up with these computers. I'd like to be one of my own students. And then I paused and I said, no. It was more interesting to me to see the before and the after, to see the change, to see it, to witness it taking place, and to know how important a thing it was in our life. So I'm more glad to be in the generation I was in.
With Apple's market share surging and even becoming dominant in certain sectors, such as the iPod, is there a danger that it will lose its niche, cool status, and also its status as an underdog, which has given it protection from the kind of anti-monopoly lawsuits that Microsoft has faced?
Apple's market share isn't large enough in the world yet to lead to that sort of concern, but the way Apple has introduced the iPhone with a lot of restrictions, what you can and can't do with it, and that it's not a locked phone, those sort of things bother me because it sort of indicate Apple stepping into that, that characteristic that we attributed to other bad companies in the past. It was funny, when Apple's market share was low, very low, like 5%, I thought, well, we're just special. We know what we have. We know an inside thing that the rest of the world doesn't know. And when it shrunk to 4%, I said I'm that much more special.
From your experience here, what have you made of Australia's technology sector?
Everyone I've ever met in the technologists in the field, engineers, researchers at universities are just as bright as anywhere in the world. That's just been my experience throughout time. From all the technologies involved, from chip making to RFID to radios. So I don't find a lapse at all here.